Since 2001, Hamas has changed its strategy from suicide bombers, Fedayeen, to rocket launchers. Rocket attacks are working well for Hamas, as it has created an environment of depression and fear in the minds of southern Israelis. Palestinian insurgents have launched thousands of rockets and mortar attacks on Israel, from the Gaza Strip, as a part of the continuing Arab-Israeli conflict. Palestinian rockets and missiles used in the Arab-Israeli conflict come in a variety of design sizes and payload capacities. These rockets include those locally made in Gaza, as well as weapons smuggling from Iran and Syria. In this presentation, we will list all the rockets launched by Hamas to Israel from 2002 until today. The Qasam rocket was first launched into Israeli territory on March 5, 2002, by the Al-Qasam Brigade, the military arm of Hamas. The rocket has been manufactured primarily from the Gaza Strip. The Constant One has a length of 1.8 meters, a diameter of 60 millimeters, and it can go up to a maximum range of 4.5 kilometers. Now, despite the fact that the rocket lacks a guidance device and is also extremely unreliable, the rockets have had a major psychological impact on its rail-up. Next is the 107mm rocket. This rocket was fired many times by Hamas on Israeli territory. The 107mm spin-stabilized incendiary rocket contains an unknown amount of white phosphorus. The rocket is quite small compared to the Qasam rockets, but it has a much larger range compared to Qasam 1. The maximum range is 8.5 kilometers, having a warhead weight of over 18 kilograms. Up next is the Qasam 2 rocket. This simple steel artillery rocket has a much longer range compared to the Qasam 1. The range can go over 12 kilometers and its warhead weight is 10 kilograms, though it is better than the Qasam 1. It is still too inaccurate and prone to malfunction to be used against specific military targets, or near civilian areas. This is mainly launched for the purpose of harming innocent civilians. Numerous variants of the Qasam rocket have been developed and launched. The most upgraded one compared to the Qasam 1 and Qasam 2, is the Qasam 3 rocket. This rocket is much longer compared to the first and second variant, and it is 2.2 meters long, having a warhead weight of 20 kilograms. The maximum range of this rocket is 16 kilometers. The cost of the materials used for manufacturing each Qasam rocket is up to $800 per rocket. On the 28th of February 2008, at least 10 Grand rockets hit the coastal city of Ashkelon, about 10 miles from the Israeli border. With the Gaza Strip, this 122mm rocket has been developed with a high explosive fragmentation warhead. The 2.8-meter rocket armed with high explosive fragmentation incendiary or chemical warheads has 18.4 kilogram warhead. Its maximum range is 30. On 11th of May 2021, 2 Israelis were killed and 60 others wounded when Hamas launched 137 S-40 missiles at the cities of Ashkelon and Ashdod, with one directly hitting a building. This S-40 rocket has a range of 40 kilometers. Up next is the Foggia 3. This is an Iranian heavy 240mm intermediate-range rocket. The Vajra 3 was introduced in the 1990s and has since been exported to Hamas and Hezbollah. The rocket is solid-fueled, and has a fragmentation high-explosive warhead. The rocket is 5.2 meters long, 240 millimeters in diameter, and weighs 407 kilograms. It has a wraparound fin for stabilization in flight, which reaches a diameter of a millimeter when extended. The rocket and also has spin stabilization, but it is not guided. The rocket's double-layer propulsion burns for an average time of 4 seconds, reaching a peak velocity of 930 meters per second. The Foggia 3 rocket has a 90-kilogram warhead. The warhead contains 45 kilograms of high explosives and the rest of metal pellets for fragmentation. In 2009, Israel targeted Foggia 3 rockets among other weapons that were being smuggled to Hamas in Gaza via Sudan. Israel was subjected to the heaviest bombardment since the escalation began. Rockets such as S-55 have been fired by Hamas in previous years. This rocket has a much longer range than the S-40 rocket with over 55 kilometers. Hamas has produced the M75 rockets in local workshops, by using the drawings and documentation supplied by Iran. The location of the workshops is unknown, though Hamas has displayed their production on Gaza television stations. The M75 has a range of 75 kilometers and is assembled with components smuggled into the Palestinian enclave through underground tunnels. This is an Iranian 333mm long-range rocket, normally fired from this truck launcher. But it can also be fired individually. It carries 175 kg fragmentation warheads with 90 kg of high explosives. The first 4 or 5 were created when China exported WS-1 MLRS to Iran in the late 1980s. They were then subsequently created and produced by Iran's Aerospace Industries Organization. These rockets are held in the Gaza Strip by Palestinian militant groups, and the first was fired by Hamas in November 2012. It is believed that the manufacture of some sub-components and final assembly may take place in Gaza, but the critical components of the rockets are furnished by Iran. Iran denied transferring any rockets to Gaza but said they instead transferred technology to manufacture the rocket, according to the Hebrew Daily Marie investigators in the year 2019. Believe the rocket fired by Hamas was a missile with a range of more than 8 kilometers. This rocket is J-80, and is named after Ahmed Jabri, the head of Hamas's military wing. It is difficult to be intercepted by an Iron Dome, according to Hamas. Because it flies in a non-linear course, it is believed to have been fired at its maximum possible range from an area near Rafah in the Gaza Strip. Up next is the Qasam SH-85. The SH-85 was used against Ben Gurion International Airport on 12 May 2021. According to the Hamas group, the Hamas brigades released the details of the missile attack on Tel Aviv and the Ben Gurion Airport in honor of its modern commander Mohammed Abu Chamiza, in which SH-85 missiles were used for the first time. This rocket has a range of 85 kilometers. Apart from other rockets, brigades also employed the J-90 rocket. This rocket has a slightly better range than the SH-85. It can go up to 90 kilometers. Home gangs used a new A-120 rocket launcher to launch new missiles that rained down on Israel on May 10, 2021. The group said that the missiles were named after Mortar commander, in a brief statement released early Tuesday. The statement went on to say that the missiles were equipped with highly destructive explosive warheads. A-120 is said to have a range of around 120 kilometers and was seen in Hamas's footage of a long rocket being loaded into a launcher by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The M302 rocket with the Palestinian designation R-160. This is a Syrian-made missile capable of delivering a 150 kg warhead up to 180 kilometers, the launch of the longer range. Khyber 1 M302 rocket in July 2014 marked yet another escalation in Hamas's rocket capabilities, capable of targeting most of Israel's population. The Israeli Navy intercepted a shipment of dozens of rocket known as M302 rockets on board the classic cargo ship in the Red Sea on 5 March 2014. The rockets were being shipped from Syria to Iran and were destined for Sudan, from where they could be transported to Gaza via Egypt. Last but not least is the Aya missile. On the 13th of May 2021, Hamas's armed wing declared that it had begun using a new missile capable of hitting any place in Israel, as the Gaza-based terror group launched a major rocket barrage at Israel's central and southern regions. According to Abu Zubaydah, a spokesperson for the Hamas military wing, rockets with the Ish missile with a range of 250 kilometers were fired towards Ramon Airport, located north of Khald in southern Israel. The rockets reportedly landed in an unpopulated area outside the city, causing no injuries or damage. The range of the missile, which flew over 200 kilometers, reportedly shocked the Israel Defense Forces. The IDF previously claimed that the terror group rockets could only travel 160 kilometers according to the Times of Israel. Yahya Washer, top Hamas bomb maker who was responsible for hundreds of Israeli deaths until his assassination in 1996, was honored with a rocket's name.